Board meeting to order. Misty, could you take the roll call, please?
Mr. Picard,
Here.
Mr. Temperley,
Here.
Mr. Fields,
Here.
Mr. Polachek, Mr. Reich, Mr. Rupplinger.
Here.
I've got Mr. Polachek and Mr. Reich marked as absent. Mr. Temperley, if one of them does show up, could you just let me know if you're not on my screen so I know
Okay.
what time to check them in?
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you.
All right. Agenda item number 3, correction and approval of the minutes of March 8th, 2022. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion
I'll make a motion to approve minutes for March 8th, 2022.
That was Bennett, Misty. Is there a second?
Second.
That'd be Mark. All right. Let's take a roll call vote on this, Misty. Well,
Mr. Temperley,
aye.
Mr. Fields,
Aye.
Mr. Rupplinger,
Aye.
Mr. Picard.
Aye.
Motion passed 4-0.
All right. Bennett, I think you sounded kind of quiet. Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, I
Is it
can
still-
hear you better now.
Much
Yeah.
better.
Okay. I'll speak up.
All right. Next, questions and public comment. There's nobody here. Is there anybody online? All right. Nope. So now we go to agenda item number 5, the director's report from Paul.
Okay, thank you very much. First item, as usual, is the AMI update. I've got a little more information for you today. We've been really pushing on the electric meters. So far, we've got about 3,100 electric meters installed. That leaves about 1,200 left to go, and we're pretty confident that we can get those done this year. Our issue there also is going to be getting meters, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in just a second. I do want to address an email, I think, Todd, that you got an email or got copied in on from one resident that would like to opt out. Explain to that resident at this time we don't have an opt-out policy, and that would have to come through this board before it happened. We also have one resident that has requested to not have the meter immediately. They've got some health concerns, and what they're doing is a little bit of, I guess, experimenting to see if not having that type of meter would make a difference. So in both cases, I have told them that we will delay putting the meter in, and unless and until we have an official opt-out policy, eventually those meters would go in.
So why don't we just put that in next month's agenda, just a discussion?
Sure.
Because this is new for us. It's not something I think we can talk about in one meeting and decide. It's
Correct.
something we should talk about, have a takeaway, and think about it for a month.
I agree, and I should note, now, next month is typically our tour, so if you maybe want to wait till June or something like that, but
All right.
I'll leave that up to you guys. But yeah, and we can gather some more information so you know what we're talking about here.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Still, on this one, the water meters are still behind. They were supposed to have been delivered late last week. We didn't get them. And so what we've started to do now, and actually we had a discussion today with another company that supplies meters to see if at least we can get some meters. They're compatible with our FlexNet, our current system, but they have the meters in stock. I asked what the difference is, and they don't know why they can get the chips and our other company can't get them. And so we're going to pursue that. We've had a couple of tense email exchanges with the current company right now, letting them know that it's been well over a year, something's got to happen here. And so
What's the other company name?
Farnier Metro, I can get that for you.
Where?
But yeah, they're actually out of Colorado, but we learned about them because they're putting their system in Watertown. And although it's a slightly different system, it is compatible with what we're doing. It looks like, just based on our initial conversation, that their meters might be a tad more expensive, but we've asked them for an official proposal, and we shall see where we're at.
It,
And
it works on the same radio frequency?
yeah, actually what happens is, Mark, their information goes to the cloud, and then we pull it back from the cloud. And so, yeah, it is, I don't have those numbers in my head, Mark, but it is a similar radio frequency. And actually, it's more of a cell phone, I should say. It's more of a cell phone frequency. In fact, they use Verizon and AT&T to access their meters. And you're looking at me like, I don't know what I'm talking about, because I don't. I simply know that the information is stored in the cloud, then we can grab it from there and run it through our billing system and everything.
Yeah. I'd like to have more information on that.
Absolutely. We're pursuing it, and by the way, we're letting our current company know that we're pursuing it.
Yeah, bargaining chip.
Well, and I'm not, it's not out of spite, it's out of, man, we need some meters, So they're well aware of that, but
Well, even if you pay a few bucks more right now, if you had to wait another 6 months or a year to get them, you could be losing money going the other route just because of where prices are going.
exactly, right,
So if you can get your hands on them, you're probably better off.
yeah. So we're going to pursue that, and I will get you more information, Mark.
I recently looked at electronic components for a job, and some are in stock and some are more than a year.
Yes, yeah. But we can't, we've already placed our bets, and we're not going to wait.
Yeah,
for-
that's the thing. We should be in the queue.
Yes, yeah, and so it's getting very frustrating, and if we don't change what we're doing, we're not going to have anything new happen, so I'll keep you informed on that. Okay, good on that one? Cybersecurity, I know we bring this up every time. We are really focusing on two things right now. One is the employee training, and we're going to get that in place ASAP, and then the other big one is just making sure we have our vendor agreements correct so that everything is as secure as we can get it. And I will tell you too that I know Dave Grumman is in the other room listening. He's been real instrumental in getting things together and getting some training and stuff like that, so we're moving forward. All right. Potholes and street settling. This is something that kind of cranked up this year for the first time since I've been around. I mean, at least to the degree it is now. We had an issue on Grove Street, and then one on, it was Countryside, right? Countryside, that's the one off, Country View, thank you. The one off Pinnacle, and then one down here on Lake Street. The one on Grove Street looks like it just is a result of some undermining of the fill from past water leaks. So what we did there is simply dug down until we found solid ground, redid the fill with some 3-inch rock, and then put millings over it until we can get it actually paved. Seems to be holding up real well. The one on Country View, a little less sure of what happened there, although when we did dig that one out, we got down to some bad fill, clay, that sort of thing. Some of the stone had disappeared, but we did the same thing. We dug down to where we had solid ground, filled it with 3-inch rock, put millings on, and we'll go back and pave that. And the one on Lake Street is in the area where we replaced the water line, if you recall, as part of the West Lake Street. We decided to put new water main on East Lake while we had the crew here, and there's just one spot that seems to be sinking in on us. We're not 100% sure of what's going on there, but this is something that is under warranty with the contractor, A1, and so we're going to ask them to come in, excavate that down and see what's going on there and have them repair that, hopefully under our warranty agreement with them. We have some thoughts what we think it might be, but until we really know for sure, we'll let them come in and take care of it.
Not unusual to have settlement during the freeze-thaw cycles, which is when these occurred. And all three, as Paul has mentioned, really there's an explanation. The water break on one, the potential issues on Lake Street we've talked about that could be causing the settlement. And then, of course, Country View, it's a very deep sewer. It could be settlement of the trench over time. It's a very deep sewer. We actually had a same type of settlement about 7 years ago in that same area. So it just could be continued settlement of a 20-foot deep sewer trench. And of course, the freeze-thaw cycles in the last month probably helped move that along a little bit. So, as we said, not necessarily unusual, just maybe more unusual because there were
Three of them.
three of them.
So hopefully we're done, if that old adage holds true, right?
Is potholes, is that something you're going to talk about next? Are they worse this year, or?
No, actually, it's kind of rolled into that. I would say that potholes are about the same right now. And I lost my thought. My point there was that some of these may have kind of started out that way and then expanded, but all in all, the pothole filling hasn't been what we thought it would be given the crazy winter we had. But certainly we have some, and we're getting to those. It was the street settling that is a bigger issue right now, so. Good, all right. Yep, last one then is staffing, and good news, actually. Now, we haven't actually made a hire, but we have 4 positions open in the Department of Public Works. We've got one in the wastewater, one in water, one in streets, and then a new position, an interdepartmental position that we want to see if we can fill. So we actually have 4 spots open. And we interviewed 10 candidates and really got some good, solid candidates. So very comfortable. We're going to be able to fill at least 3 of the 4 positions with the candidates that we've got. And after looking at the openings and then looking at the candidates, what we've decided to do and have talked with all of the candidates about is find the best people and then work with them and the departments to figure out who's going to fit best where. And so we'll be doing a second round of interviews next week. The one that's going to be a little more difficult, and that was when it just came up, one of our longtime water department employees is retiring. And so we want to fill that position as quickly as we can. The issue with that one is that we have Harold, who is our foreman, has been around a long time, and then we've got a younger man, Dylan, who, although is doing a really good job, has a long way to go before he really knows the water system. And so we're hoping we can find somebody with some experience to fill in the middle there so that they know what they're doing, but they're not going to retire in the next couple of days. So we're still working on that one, but even there, we're encouraged about the pool of candidates or the people that we're talking to. I mean, and I probably shouldn't gush too much, but Dan and I did the interviews, and there's some very, very impressive young people in this city, and so we're real pleased with that. So we'll keep you informed on that one.
All right, any other questions? All right, excuse me, agenda item number 6, discussion and recommendation on agreement for engineering services, traffic analysis and design incorporated. We have a prepared motion 22-4-1 to recommend to the city council to authorize the city manager to execute an agreement between the city of Lake Mills and traffic analysis and design for traffic impact and analysis services. I'll entertain a motion to approve it.
Motion to approve motion 22-4-1.
I'll second that. This is Bennett.
All right. So if we approve this contract, we automatically approve the project. So I would like to talk about the project first itself and kind of work back up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and just an apology, Steve was in another meeting, so I'm sure he'll be back here soon.
Oh, well, I mean,
But no, go ahead. That's all
Yeah,
right.
it's pretty simple.
Dwayne's well informed. Go ahead.
well, yeah, obviously, we have a right-of-way for CP Avenue all the way down to 89, and City Council and Planning Commission has opened up growth, and growth needs streets, right? I mean, that's that simple, right?
Maybe a little background, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
So, if you recall, when we were doing South Main Street, there was some expressed interest in trying to extend CP Avenue to provide an alternate north-south route throughout the city. Unfortunately, at that time, the monetary situation didn't provide for the extension of CP Avenue. Since then, a couple of different things have happened. The school is moving toward a referendum in the fall for an expansion of a school in this area. They actually started the TIA prior to then the bill funding coming available. When the bill funding, we started up looking at additional funding. We actually ended up applying to the EDA last 2 weeks ago, or a week ago, for this project. This project is not approved. It has been submitted for 80/20 funding. So I want to just step back. I don't think today we're approving the project. We're approving studying whether or not what would happen at the intersection of 89. So as part of that EDA grant and as part of the school district's project, the DOT is going to require an intersection transportation study of the intersection of Highway 89 and Unsaven Lane. This price can be, as the school district develops Unsaven Lane, they will be assessed for their frontage of the street as part of the referendum, and that those dollars would be in that referendum.
Okay.
Some of that would also be to St. Paul's, because that portion of their half of Unsaven Lane would be assessed to St. Paul's as they front that property. Mm-hmm. And again, that's the different. That would be the portion that isn't in the, there's a portion in the ADA grant as well. The reason that the TIA is moving back in front of you at this time and not staying with the school district is there was a mechanism for payment through the assessment ultimately, but there's also other external issues that the TIA will look at, and that is if Unsaven continues to extend to the west and into the Tyranina Point subdivision, which was always something that we looked at when that Tyranina Point went in, was that ultimately Topol Road or County Trunk Highway A would extend down Unsaven and connect to CP Avenue and would be an alternate route for County Trunk Highway A rather than going through town on Topol. And that's in the transportation plan, but that's what we've been looking at. So when we started talking about this TIA once again with the school district, it was suggested that we look at this as a city project, as the TIA, and then assess through the assessment process back to the school and St. Paul's for the cost.
Rather than St. Paul's and the school having to do this. So explain the TIA, it's a new term.
Sure. TIA stands for Transportation Impact Analysis or Study. And what generally is happening is if there's a school, there's a number of vehicles will process through that school every day. And a number of vehicles will hit the intersection of Unsaven and State Trunk Highway 89. The traffic analysis will look at different options for intersections. Will there be right turn lanes? Will there be left turn lanes? Will there be just an intersection with stop signs? Could there be a roundabout? Those types of options are required to be analyzed through the TIA. Now, as you start adding these other issues with potential development to the west, it becomes a four-way intersection rather than a T intersection. And numbers of traffic based on Unsaven coming through or CP Avenue coming through, that's going to increase potentially the through traffic, but may minimize the number of turning lanes because there's an alternate route away from the school rather than all of the traffic from the school going to State Trunk Highway 89.
So rather than just planning for a dead end, we're just planning for the far future, the dead end keeps going to the west.
Correct. Both to the west and to the north on CP Avenue.
Yeah, okay.
And so you see how this study really started with the school district, but has really expanded with the funding potential source for CP Avenue. And you can see how within the last month this changed a little bit, but there is an avenue for both the school district, for this amount to be assessed through the building of their portion of the frontage on Unsavin Lane,
So we'll recoup it back down the road.
potentially. I mean,
Through special.
there's a special assessment for the frontage, so there is an amount. Now, will it be specifically this amount? No. But there is an assessment that would occur on the frontage of the developed portion of Unsavin Lane.
If the referendum passes.
If the referendum passes, and if the funding from the ADA is approved.
We don't need to have this in place for either one of them to happen.
We can go ahead with the study even if the referendum fails, right? We just have something planned out, because eventually referendums do get passed.
And this was actually in front of council last week, and
Uh-huh.
they tabled it and sent it here. And part of the reasoning was, I think what Steve had shared with us, that this is good for a couple years. If it gets 2-3 years down the road, they're going to make you redo it anyways. So if the referendum doesn't go forward, we could potentially redo this down the road again. And have to pay for it a second time. Potential.
Well, do we want to wait till the referendum's over? I mean, I think $6,000 was the cost of the study. Did I read that correctly?
I believe that's the
Yeah,
number.
like $6,800 or something.
6481.
6481, okay.
So,
It was right in between us. We were close.
yeah, I mean, I'm not against it, but if we do spend $6,000 now and we do it again anyways,
That was some of the discussion at council was if it's, and that was part of the recommendation from staff is is it truly necessary right now? Or is it something that can wait 4 or 5 months and see if we need it? Is it a necessity to get the grant or to get the referendum to move is what they were looking at.
well, I don't think us tabling this until the referendum over is going to affect the referendum results.
Correct.
So,
I think they were just waiting to see if the referendum moved forward, then it was worth spending the money. I think that was the logic behind it.
Quick question with this. So if we do this study, how long is it good for, right? I mean, because the school district owns this land, right? So the thought would be that if it's good for like 5 or 10 years, that might be, yeah, I don't know. I'm curious. Dwayne, any feedback on that?
I think Steve mentioned 5 years the other day. I would have to research the exact date. But it's really going to come down to how the DOT reacts to that study and what kind of parameters that the study is based on and has that changed. And so if CP Avenue is not extended, if the school is still built there, but it just is in a future referendum, if the school size doesn't dramatically change, in my mind, my argument would be, well, has the population or the traffic counts in and out of that school changed? Now, if all of the areas around this intersection have changed from a land use perspective and possibly a transportation impact, then I would say then the more years you get away from it, even 1 year away from it, if the school isn't there, that totally changes the thought process in the analysis. Does that make sense?
yeah, I would kind of prefer to have it definite that there's going to be a school there to do the analysis.
But at the same time, if I may, the property was dedicated to the school to be a school. And so to my point, I think it potentially would extend longer than that 5 years because that dedication stipulates that it's a school property. Now, it doesn't mean
Right,
that
right.
can't be changed, but likelihood is pretty high. I'm sorry.
So the other funding source we're investigating is, it's another acronym I didn't recognize.
EDA,
Yeah, well, whatever it is, if we get that and the school doesn't happen because it's dedicated property to a school, it still applies? Or because they're not building a school, it would have to be redone?
It would potentially impact the intersection turning lanes, but the demand, a couple different ways we could look at it. The school's not there, so do you really have to build all the excess lanes now at the intersection? And then when the school would go in, say,
Then
X number of years later, the school district would pay to, or that referendum would include the expansion of that intersection to provide those lanes. We'd have a decision to make at that point is, do we apply it to what the TIA said for the future build out of the school? Or would we build it based on what is needed based on the development that is occurring there now at the time, assuming that the school has not been built? Does that answer your question?
And is this study required to get the grant, or is this study, no? Yes?
This is required to finish the connection and the intersection. The DOT will require it before we have final plans.
Yes, but do we need to do this before we find out if we get grant approval?
I do not believe so, no.
Yeah, not to our understanding. But before we actually do something,
Right,
physically
right,
do
right.
something, then we will, yeah. So I don't, I think Steve has talked about it, it wouldn't hurt to table this. I think the key was that the council wanted to send it back to you.
Okay.
And, certainly if there's more discussion, more information you need, or for things to happen, that's fair.
Well, I just don't see doing a study and then
Sure.
nothing happens and we do it again. I mean, I know we have a $5 million budget, but I mean, throwing $6,000 away just to feel good and
Wait until one of those two things actually
Yeah.
becomes concrete.
Exactly,
Correct.
exactly. And this is kind of what we had talked about, that this is going to be a really funky time and that we're kind of going to wait for different things to happen. So, again, you're aware of it, and if
because I'm not aware of any huge non-school development projects in that area. Are you?
Not aware of anything right now. so-
Yeah,
This
so
is
it's
not
not like
housing.
tomorrow, something to come in and want to build duplexes because, well, the housing market's slow now, so.
I know even some of the development along the Coney Trail there, that kind of got pushed back too with some of the apartments and things that
Yeah.
were being proposed, so
Yeah,
it's actually slowed down out there a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah, we're hearing kind of mixed messages. The folks that are doing the Mud Lake one are saying they're still going gangbusters. There is an apartment complex that would be going south of the trail. They slowed down but haven't given up yet. So, we're in a limbo. We're in a limbo.
Yeah. So, I
We need-
guess,
We need that crystal ball for the next 6 months.
and that becomes development. I mean, we approved the north side 20 years ago. People were expecting Walmart to pop up the next day. And it really didn't. So, I kind of sympathize with staff. You can't predict anything. It's really hard to plan anything.
So if the board decides to not go forward with this,
We just table it and we just come back to us.
I would say we just vote it no, and then the motion comes back at another point in time, no?
I think we need a different resolution. How does that work?
I was going to suggest what Paul was saying is table,
Table this.
and then we can check with Dan, but bring it back once we hear of one of the two things,
Correct.
Yeah.
either
Yep.
the grant application or the school referendum.
Because if,
All right, motion to table.
all right, Mark made a motion to the table. Is there a second?
A second.
All right. I guess, any discussion on tabling? I mean, it makes sense.
I don't know if tabling gets discussion, does it? I wish Dan was here today.
I don't think so. Well, yeah, you're
Whatever.
right.
If I think back to high school, I don't think you can discuss.
All right. Yeah,
I may be way wrong, and
We
somebody's gonna
discussed
call
it
me.
before the motion, so.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take the roll call vote, Misty.
Mr. Fields?
Aye.
Mr. Rupplinger?
Aye.
Mr. Picard?
Aye.
Mr. Temperley?
Aye.
Motion to table passed 4-0.
Agenda item number 7, discussion and recommendation on bid award, contract LM 1-22, concrete curb and gutter and sidewalk maintenance. We have a prepared motion 22-4-2. I'll entertain a motion to approve for discussion.
I'll move to approve motion 22-4-2 for concrete curb, gutter, and sidewalk.
I'll second it.
All right, so this one is easy. We've got 2 bids, and we have a low bid. Obviously, the recommendation is to take the low bid. Although it's a little higher than what we were expecting, the bids.
Well, let me explain.
All right.
First off, the low bidder is the same contractor that we had last year,
Uh-huh.
so we're familiar with the contractor. In the estimate or the opinion of cost, that was based on 2021 prices. So typically, while I didn't, typically I would add 3% to those numbers when I did my opinion of cost.
Right.
The difference between that opinion of cost, the 184, and the low bid is about 6%. Given the current climate of supply chain and material costs and the like, a 6% increase from last year.
You got a good deal.
Yeah.
Probably not a bad
Right.
number. If you want to look into more detail, realize that we talked about this last month, obviously, that we included a lot of handicap ramps associated with the local,
Yeah.
the bill funding for local, and really a lot of the work some of that bulk is really dependent on what we hear as an answer in the next month or two from the SDP local. Will determine whether we focus on those or whether we focus on other sidewalks throughout the city. Any other questions in detail on the bid?
No, it's pretty simple. I wouldn't advise tabling this because next month it would be different, the prices. So let's take this bid now. So everyone understand that we'll be accepting the Schweigert bid, correct? Yep, and they've been in the city a long time. All right, let's have a roll call vote, Misty, unless there's any other questions or comments from any other board members? All right, we do the roll call vote.
Mr. Rupplinger,
Aye.
Mr. Picard,
Aye.
Mr. Temperley,
Aye.
Mr. Fields,
Aye.
motion passed 4-0.
All right, agenda item number 8, discussion recommendation on patching equipment purchase. Again, we have a nice prepared motion, 22-4-3, to recommend to purchase a mini asphalt paver. Is there a motion to approve for discussion?
Motion to approve 22-4-3.
This is Bennett. I'll second.
All right, so we were warned about this last month. So I'll we rely on used to rely on contractors, but that's not reliable, or the prices have gone. Well, I'll let you explain it. You had a good rationale.
You were really close. And
Yeah.
I think it all boils down to, we think we can do the small patches better and more timely. And we did the cost benefit analysis and think we can do it a little bit cheaper. I mean, it's not a great amount, but
Right.
it's an amount. And, you mentioned 2 of the issues that, we couldn't get them done in a timely fashion. And then we're also, as mentioned in the memo, thinking that once the bill funding really kicks in, it's going to be difficult to get contractors to do these small jobs.
Right.
Given that we can get a reasonably priced machine, and we do happen to have a lot of small patches that
Yeah.
we can do, we think this is economically better. And the reason that we're bringing it to you is that it is different than what was approved in the budget, at least in terms of the piece of equipment. And the dollars, it's similar. And so we just want to make you aware and ask you to participate in this decision because it is a change.
And a little background.
Okay, yeah.
Staff did do this quite a bit when Lake Mills Blacktop was still functioning before their plant shut down. once that plant disappeared from the local area, the distance to the nearest plant kind of precluded, kind of eliminated that task because the asphalt would not stay warm enough
Okay,
for the haul route and then the installation. The new piece to this is there's a new plant opening just within 4 miles of the
Oh,
city.
all right.
And so now that haul route is shorter, and to Paul's point, the staff will be able to attack maybe 3 patches in the city this week, maybe something that would normally sit for several months with base course or millings in it. Potentially, the city staff could get to it a lot sooner.
So this is filler work where if there's time, we have someone to do it right away rather than trying to schedule with a contractor, which you just don't know.
Right. Now, the other part of that, what you said, is that this will not eliminate 100% having to use contractors. There will
Okay.
be larger patches and that sort of thing that
Right.
we'll have to do. But based on the analysis that Dwayne did very thoroughly, we can get to the majority of these and we can still save some money. I should note too, I think it's later in part of the memo that although this will be a piece of equipment owned by the streets department, a lot of the patches will be done for the water department, wastewater, because they're the ones that cause the street openings. And as we do now, there will be a bill back. So in other words, those departments will be billed for that work, all of
Yeah.
it, the product and
Yeah.
everything else. So again, overall, we think this is a worthwhile investment and that it should get good life. And I wanted to mention too, it doesn't have to just be asphalt. We can do it, use it to shoulder like County A and some of the other places where we still have rural type streets where they have to be edged every once in a while. So again, I think everything points to the fact that this would be a worthwhile investment.
What's the estimated lifetime of this paver?
That's I don't want to be an accountant, but that's a depends on, how often we use it. I believe the one we're looking at has got a 5-year warranty. I would hope
Yeah.
we can get past that. And the other thing I'll tell you is that our guys take care of their stuff, and so I would anticipate it will have a good life.
Maintenance is the key.
I agree. And it's a really rather simple machine, when it comes right down to it. So I think maintenance we can keep up with.
All right. Well, sounds good to me. How about you, Bennett?
Gotta get off mute here. Yeah, no questions. Feel pretty good about it.
All right. Okay, if no further questions or comments, another roll call vote.
Mr. Picard,
Aye.
Mr. Temperley,
Aye.
Mr. Fields,
Aye.
Mr. Upplinger,
Aye.
motion passed 4-0.
All right, recommendations for future agendas. So next month, we have elections for president and vice president. So,
Yeah, so you'll do your reorganization meeting as
Yep.
usual in May. And then, as we've done for several years now, we'd like to do our tour. I think we had to do a virtual one the last couple of years, so hopefully we can climb on the bus. And we'll put together a list of sites that we'll visit and try to get that out to you beforehand. And then you can please suggest places that you'd like to go and look at and talk a little bit
so
about.
I think we meet here first for the elections first, right? Then we convene for the bus tour.
That's correct. What we've done in the past is meet here, take 15, 20 minutes to do the first part of the agenda, and then hit the road.
All right,
But I think what Paul is asking is we'll want some input to put the list together, because we will want the list on the agenda.
so
Correct.
board members, you get Paul's email address.
Yeah, send me any ideas where you want to go. By rule, we have to list those so that if people want to join it, they have a sense of where we're going. We typically list it in the order that we're going to go, and then take a tour of the city. So
Okay.
that'll be next month. One item that came up that we may end up talking about is the possibility some bike lanes in some other parts of the city. I don't anticipate that for a little while, but just be ready that there's been some discussion and there may be a proposal to look at this at the city council level, and so it will likely come back here for study and recommendation.
Okay. Anybody else have? All right. Well, then I'll adjourn the meeting. All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks.